Okay, so we are going over again Michi's book, Back Checker Strategy. And so far we've covered splitting rules again, which came mostly from his opening concepts book, in which I introduced a different way of thinking about it, well, a way of organizing it, which I think is better, where you think of splitting. Anytime you have a chance to split, you consult the splitting rules. And then we went through last time, we talked about the initial stage versus the advanced stage, and went over a number of examples and the difference. So the basic idea in the initial stage, you're going to play very loose and aggressively, and with the advanced stage, you're going to play much more safely. One of the things I realized later on that I didn't discuss is that and Michi just emphasized this, but I didn't talk very much about, well, what's the difference between the initial stage and the advanced stage. So I'm going to talk about that and go over with some examples, because Michi doesn't really cover the kind of in-between stage between the initial. So the initial stage is when you've got two back checkers on the ace point, the 24 point, and that's the initial stage. The advanced stage is when you have an advanced anchor, so 4 point or the 5 point. I think he calls the 3 point the butterfly anchor, and we'll get into what that means. What he didn't talk about though is when you're not in the initial, when you're past the initial stage, but you're not at the advanced stage yet. So something like when you split your back checkers, but you haven't made the anchor yet. And I suspected the reason that he didn't talk about that is because things are not quite as clear. So just to refresh, here we're in the initial stage. What do we do with the 5-3? And Les was there, so Les, I'm going to put you on the hot spot. What do you recall what the right play is here?
Yes, probably. Let's see, 5-3. Hit the 5 point with the 13 checker.
Very good. That's exactly right. And you're playing loose. You're playing, well, not loose, but aggressively, boldly is one way to put it. And as Michi points out, there are disadvantages here. You could get hit, and there's a lot of return shots here. Black is on the bar, and so any 5 hits, and then any 4 hits coming from the ace point. But and that's not good to get hit, because you go back 20 pips basically. But it does give you a better chance to make your own advanced anchor with that extra checker back. So it's not that's kind of the saving grace. Obviously, you'd rather not get hit. You'd rather make the 5 point. But if you do get hit, you have more opportunity to make the advanced anchor. Now, what's the answer? However, if we are in the advanced stage, we've made the advanced anchor. So I'll give you the chance to go 2 for 2. But you better turn your microphone on first.
Okay, I was thinking, well, you want to be safe, so you make the 3 point.
Exactly. When you're at the advanced stage, you make the 3 point. You make the point. You play it safe, so you're not going to hit loose, because now one of the saving graces of getting hit on the return shot is that you can make the advanced anchor more easily. But in this case, you've already made the advanced anchor, so you don't have that saving grace. All you're doing is you're going to go farther back. So that swings it to making the 3 point here, as opposed to hitting loose. So it's make the point rather than fighting for the strong point. Now, what Michi doesn't cover is, well, what if you're not in the initial stage anymore, meaning that you've split your back checkers, but you're not in the advanced stage anymore? And so he didn't talk about that at all. Any guesses as to what
think that's an impossible position, Gary. You need to
Oh, yes, well, it is,
5-1 down, 5 down, yeah.
yeah. So let's say that. And I didn't look at this one because I forgot that Ray pointed out that there's an impossible position. I didn't know that, but so what do you think you would do here?
Well, I think
Well, I
still
didn't, you know, this is not part of the book, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but let's see, I would make the 3-point here. Yeah, and the reason that I do that is that I'm stacked on the 8 and stacked on the 6, so Michi's, you know, unstack or what do you call break the mountain, I think would apply here. Second is this, because we're not quite at the initial stage, but it's kind of the same idea. And now, you know, now we're even more likely to make a decent anchor. Hitting twice the tiger play. We've got 9 checkers in the zone. When you have 9 or more, you can look at the double tiger. If you had only 8, you would never think of that. You wouldn't do that. So if you had this, say, which you can't have, but if you did, you know, you're still hitting loose here. So it's more the initial stage, but this isn't bad either. Because you're not, you know, you're kind of at the initial stage, but this isn't really the initial stage, and having that extra checker, you've already split, so you've already gotten sort of the advantage of having more chances to make the anchor. Let's just, I don't want to go into this too much, but let's look at, you know, other plays.
You're fighting for the point you want too, is the
Right, yes. So you have these sort of conflicting proverbs, and the question is which has the more priority. So in this one, you know, I think if we go this position, it's always going to be making the 3-point, just because, you know, unstacking and making a point, those are 2 pretty good things. And that's, you know, making a point is generally better than hitting loose. That's another proverb. And you know, better than the tiger play with leaving 2 blots. So if we go out one more, this one should be making the oh no, still that. I would actually probably make this play. Because you know, you make the 4-point, and this is, and here, you know, the conflicting proverbs are you make the strong point. The downside is that you're stacking on the 8 here. Okay, so that's enough of that, but I just wanted to point out that I didn't mention that, and but it's important to know, and you know, not just it's easy to fall into I guess a trap of remembering certain things, but not recognizing when you're not exactly in that position. And Michi is being very specific about what he means by the initial stage, and he does not talk at all about the positions where you're not at the initial stage and you're not at the advanced stage. Okay, so let's get into more examples of in the advanced stage. And to give you a hint of what this section is called, it's he calls it even if ugly. And so what he means by that is, okay, we're in the advanced stage because we have this advanced anchor. And so what we do is we play it safe. And he wants to point out we play it safe even if ugly. So that will give you a hint as to what the right play is here. Anyone, and I'll give you a hint that it's ugly. What do you think it is?
10 to
4, 6, 5.
Yes, 10 to 4, 6 to 5.
Yeah. And that I think is pretty ugly. To have this, you know, this stack here, no, you know, stripped everywhere else, and these spares are not in the ideal position. So yeah, but that is the right play. And again, the idea is the thing to remember is you're in the advanced stage. You want to play safely. It also helps. Black has a 3-point board, and that's another reason to look out for that. But Michi's point is the advanced stage, you play safe even if ugly. Okay, let's look at another example. So what do we have here? Well, first thing is we're in the advanced stage. We have this anchor here.
Well, we
And-
make the bar point. Can't see anything else for that.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Ray?
I said to make the bar point, and I think I would hit.
Yeah, that's a natural place for the 6 to go. It makes a good point. You have a spare there. And the question is, what do you do with the 2? Whoops. Yeah, so well, you got 2 things to do with the 2. I mean, I don't think anyone likes this one because it's a double shot and a 7 to hit against a better board, even though it's a 2-point board, it's still a better board. This was obviously dumb, and hopefully no one would ever think of that. So it's really, and you would never do this, leaving the double shot and, you know, and breaking a bar point, which is a good point, and to slot another good point. So it's either going to be this, which, oops, we can agree is ugly. Or this, which isn't as ugly, but it fights for a good point. And puts black on the bar. So it does some good things here. But what do you think is the right play?
I would hit.
Sorry?
Doesn't seem very frightening if you're hit. You've only got a 2-point board.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not terrible. It's only a 2-point board and you have the a high anchor. But the lesson is that even if it's ugly, you make the ugly play when you're in the advanced stage. And actually this is kind of a, you know, it's not quite a blunder, but it's a fairly sizable error. So let's wait for plus to finish. Oh, actually it is, it turns out on plus it is a blunder. So yeah, that's yeah, and so yeah, the point of this lesson is to help you not make that mistake. Because it looks kind of natural given what, you know, given that you want to fight for the 4-point, you really don't want black to escape his back checker. But in the advanced stage, you don't do that, you play it safe. One more example on ugly. So we can see we're in the advanced stage. Nothing really leaps out as spectacular to do. We could hit here, we could hit on the 3. However, we want to play safe, and there's really only one safe play here. And that is stack the 8. And this certainly constitutes ugly after we're done with it. Stacking the 8 is something we generally don't want to do. On the other hand, you know, hitting here leaves a shot. Black has a 3-point board, and we already have our anchor, so that extra checker is not helping anything. We could hit loose here. You know, a 3-point is not really a point we want to make, but there are a lot of return shots. Black has the 3-point board, and we already have an anchor, so we just go back. Here's one, you know, other hitting plays. Yeah, giving this. The only saving thing about this is you duplicate 6s, but there's so many shots here that it's back to giving everything up right now. So again, the point is, you know, even if ugly, you're at the advanced stage, play safe. And again, assuming you have nothing more useful that's useful to do.
Yes.
Okay, so the next section, which will give away the thing, and I often get these wrong, and I think a lot of people do, is what he calls making is better than hitting. So what I think probably I would do is might have done before learning about this is hit here and hit here. Hit on the 4, hit on, put 2 on the bar. Or hit it and come around. I don't think I would do that because I give up the direct shot, but you know, here we're in the advanced stage. Now here we're talking about breaking an anchor, a strong anchor. And generally you're not going to want to break your anchor unless you're ready to unless you don't have another choice and you're heading to race and you're ready to go on to the racing part of it. But here the answer is, you know, make the point. And the second best play is, you know, to hit 2. And it's not, and then to come up to. And I, you know, obviously, hopefully you don't would make the 2 point here, because we can make the 7 point, and the 7 point is better than the 2 point. But you know, these are the 2 plays. You know, I would be likely to have played this play, trying to be aggressive and putting 2 on the bar. 2 on the bar is really good. But you don't break your anchor to do that. You know, in the advanced stage, you know, playing it safe is better. Making the point is better than hitting. And you know, hitting is usually good, but in this case, better off making the point. Yeah, so here's one. Double 2s. You know, there are a lot. Now here's a pretty good roll where the number of things we could do. We could come in and hit here. And really, or advance the anchor, or do a number of things. Or you can also make the 4 point. So yeah, so what do we think? And we're in the advanced stage now that we know that. So we're going to want to play safer. And what does that mean?
4 point.
Yeah, well, yeah, anytime you roll a double 2s and you've got spares on the 6 that you can make the 4 point, that's almost always the right thing to do. There's a few rare cases where you don't do that. So yeah, you're going to come in. And hopefully, you know, I think this is pretty automatic. I would think. You know, hitting out here is tempting, but you know, if you hit out there, you only got the 2 point board and you've left a lot of blots lying around, including this one. So now what about the last 2?
Last one.
Well, the last 2 to play. Yeah. The last move with 2.
10 to 8.
Yeah, 10 to 8. It's play safe. I mean, you could do this and you have more spares to make the 7 or to come up to the 3, but you know, it's the safer play is the better play here. Let's look at the XG answer now. And so this is the best play. Coming up with from the back is second. You know, splitting the back checkers here. Again, more builders to make to extend the prime, but a lot of lots. And then just hitting is not the right play. Because you're giving up your anchor by doing that. You also got a lot of blots lying around. It's tempting to do that because we're way behind in the race. We have the better board, but you know, but black also has, you know, even when you hit him, he's got 13 checkers in the zone. And you've just broken your anchor, so you're likely to get hit. If not right away, then eventually. Because you can't get those back checkers out soon enough. Okay. One of the interesting things, and Michi doesn't provide examples here, is that, okay, so we've all looked at, we're in positions in which we are in the advanced stage. And so here's a position where we're not in the advanced stage, but our opponent is in the advanced stage. And so what does that mean? For us, And so, well, what's the first thought here on the plays from this position?
I would think about making my 3-point.
Yeah, making the 3-point is a good, makes a good point. And the only issue with that is, okay, well, here's this checker here. Do we want, and the question is really, I mean, we could come down from the midpoint and go 7-4 and safety that checker, and then we wouldn't get hit. But I'll just look at it, and that's not the play. It is making the 3-point, and safety the checker is the second best play. But the reason that it's not is now your opponent is in the advanced stage. And so your opponent should be playing safe. So if so you can, what that means is basically you can leave a checker out here kind of as bait for him to take, to hit you, because it's probably not the right move for him to do.
If he's taken this lesson, if he hasn't taken this lesson.
Yes, the other thing, this lesson, yeah, so which means that this one is kind of safe. I mean, the only, the danger is like a double twos or something like that, which, he'll come out here and then make the 4-point. But yeah, so, that's it. That's an interesting thought. Michi doesn't develop it that much in front of any examples, but, keep in mind that if your opponent is in the advanced stage, that he's going to want to play safe and not come out and hit loose and break his anchor, which means that placing checkers in the outfield here is a lot less dangerous than it would be otherwise. And part of that too is the idea here that here's a point you want. If you have to place a blot somewhere, placing it in front of a strip point is probably a better idea. I mean, if the alternative is to dumping checkers deep or something like that, put it in front of the strip point. At least if he hits you, then he's broken his point, and he's got drawbacks to his play. You may be able to hit him back, and it may ruin his position. Having the 5-point is a strong point to make. Black should not be anxious to break it, just to hit loose without something that's really productive. Okay. The third section of this part, we're going to call glued back checkers. Actually, we're not going to call it, Michi calls it that. So, and the idea is that we're in the advanced stage here. We've got the advanced anchor, but Black has not made any progress on his back checkers. And so we call that glued back checkers.
What's that word?
Glued, as in, glue, Elmer's glue, Gorilla Glue. The checkers are kind of glued to their initial spot. They haven't moved yet. So actually, I'm sure Michi didn't come up with that term, but that was the interpretation of it, or the translation of it. So here, this is another interesting play. We could hit here. And Black even has a blot in the inner board. So if we do get hit back, and actually Black here has strip points on the 14 and the 12, so there's a double shot on the return, but he breaks the point by hitting us back. So but what do we think of this?
I'd still make the inner point 5 or the 3-point.
Yeah. There was some other point that I forgot to write down that Michi was making. I'm looking for about the glued back checkers. But you're right. You make the 3-point. And he had a point of blue black checkers, which I've forgotten. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, he doesn't say it, but making points is more important when you have glued back checkers. He doesn't really explain why, but my guess is that Black is going to have to break this at some point, and then you're going to want to hit it and hit loose. So you want to prevent Black from making an anchor. And so if you have inner board points, that makes it much more dangerous for Black to split, and Black's going to want to split. Whereas if in this case, if you come out and hit, even though there's not much danger for you, you're likely to get hit back on the return. You have no board. You're giving black the opportunity to make an advanced anchor, but you're also giving the opportunity for black to harass you. And in this case, black has 11 checkers in the zone. So you provide him a lot of ammunition. And, in the hitting contest, even when you have the anchor, you have an advantage when you have your anchor. When you break your anchor, you don't have that advantage anymore. Okay. I have an example here, a variation here. Oops. Yes. And unfortunately, I showed, hopefully no one saw the example of the answer. But here's a different situation. Where we still got the glued back checkers, but now we have an inner board point. So we have a stronger board. So the question is, does that change the answer about not hitting? Because we can make the 3-point, so now we'll have an even stronger inner board. Well, for those of you that saw it, because I forgot to, I didn't save it before putting the answer. The answer is, in this case, you are going to hit. Because you have that inner board point. So you have the better board. Putting that extra checker back makes it, it puts you way up in the race. Now, if you get into a blot hitting contest, you have the better board. You have the better chance of coming out of that better. So that makes a difference here.
Suppose black had actually got his 3-point, would it still be, that must make it very close.
Yeah, I think this, I would think this is close. Now, you're inviting the blot hitting contest by breaking your anchor and getting blots. But black has no comparable board. I would think playing safe here is right, but let me see. It is right. Yeah, it's actually a big blunder here to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. What's the 113? Yeah, no, here's another one where we can hit, and this time we're only going to leave one exposed blot, because we can hit and then carry, get past black's anchors. So, what do we think of this one?
I would take the 13 to 7 and 6 to 3.
13 is okay. And that's the safe play. And
I would bring 2 down, I think, better.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The alternative is this, and then what do you do with the extra checker? And doing this, you're taking a spare from a very useful position to a position which is here, where you can make a 5 or a 4-point, which is what you'd really like to do next, preferably the 5-point, but the 4-point is pretty good too. And if you put it here, about the only useful thing it can do, at least right away, is make the 2-point. And the 2-point is not not a strong position. Now, if black moves, then you can also make the H-point. But generally, as a rule, you don't want to move a spare past a vacant point that you'd like to make. So this should be, you should be very reluctant to do this under most circumstances. So if you're going to come down, this is the one you do. Now, it's not the safest move, because black could hit it from here, but it's not likely. That's a 6-3 or 5-4. That's 4 shots. It's not that likely. But it's far better than you kind of take this checker out of the game. Not quite, but it's mostly out of the game, and it can't help you make a point that you'd like. So that's the question. I think it's either 2 down. Is it 2 down or hit? And that's really the question. And Michi's going to argue or going to say, well, we're in the advanced stage, so that we want to play safe, other things being equal. Oh, I'm missing the checker here. Oh, it's here. Sorry. So what do we do with that? And it's 2 down. And hitting loose there, it's almost a blunder to do that. And I think this is true, even if, okay, now we both have the same board, and let's put another checker here and here. It's still 2 down. It's not quite as bad because it's a 2-point board versus a 2-point, instead of the black's 3-point board, but it's still the wrong idea. Is that you've got the advanced anchor, play it safe. Black is in a tough position here. Having his checkers back and still on the ace point, that's a really weak position to be in. So by breaking your anchor, you're giving him a chance to break out of it by giving him the shots. So even though he's on the bar, so that's the idea here with this one.
What would the double situation be like?
When?
If you brought 2 down,
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course, then it depends what black does.
rows, okay, but he doesn't. Okay, let's assume that he still has 2 on the 1.
On the ace point. Yeah, so let's see, he does something like this. So, well, what would you think? We could look at it, we've looked at it from on a Pratt basis, position, race, and threat. So, we have a better board, but it's a 3-point. So, on our system, we did that in 0.3. We're up in the race by 12, so that's nearly 1. So, we're at 1.3. Threats, a little bit of threats, but black, we're not going to put anyone on the bar because black is covered everywhere. But we could make, conceivably make the prime. Or if we make one of those points, that's a pretty good threat, and probably a pass if we make one of these points. So we have some threats, maybe half. Gammon potential a little bit, but again, he's got the anchor. It's not here right now. So I don't think I would double this. Oh, it is a double. Boy, am I wrong on this one? Good question, Les. Double and a pass. Well, I would have gotten this one wrong. I wouldn't have doubled this because I don't see the threats. But what I'm underestimating here is the weakness of this position. 2 checkers on the ace point is really a really poor position to be in. And that's a good one for me to know. Because I probably wouldn't have until I'd gotten something like this, because I'm overvaluing the point, and there are a lot of from here. One of the advantages of bringing 2 more checkers in is there are a lot of rolls that make one of these points, make the 5 or the 4 point, and I think once you make the 5 or the 4 point, it's pretty clear that it's a double and a pass. So I underestimated the threats here, and there are a lot to make these points. I'm still a little bit surprised because we're not really overwhelming on anywhere. We don't have a big race lead. We have a better board, but it's a 3-point. It's not a strong board. But we've got checkers in the zone, and we're going to probably make good chance that we'll make a strong point next time. Anyway, the cubes are tricky, and it's not always easy to see the strength. And you really have to look at a lot of these. And one of the things I'm realizing is that this ace point is really weak. which is why you need to really split your checkers and get the advanced anchor at some point. Even if you're here, this time I wouldn't think it would be double. Yeah, it's a no double. Although it's close. But having, just having the 2-point instead of the ace point is a big deal. That was a borderline double, and this is a big double and a pass.
Would it be a redouble?
A redouble. I would think this would be a redouble. If the original one is a double, it would be a redouble, yeah. Again, we're looking at money games. It's a whole lot different if you're playing a match, and then the match score plays into it quite a bit.
Yeah.
But generally, if it's a double, it's also a redouble. Not always. I mean, so you're a little more conservative on the redouble, but here it is. Okay, 2 more examples. Another 6-3. The difference here being that from the earlier example is that we've got the 5-point, much stronger point, and then we've got the 4', which is a much stronger position. And so the question is, does that change the answer at all? And so what do you think? Does it change the answer? Yeah, well, I couldn't get this one either. I didn't understand it, but the answer is that it does change the answer. And so here, and this is, this Michi's book is much more advanced, and things aren't nearly as clear cut here as in some of his other examples, some of his other books. But here, the strength of this position means that having putting an extra checker back for black is much stronger, and that he's much less likely to be able to get out of it cleanly. So here we're gonna risk getting hit on the 3-point board, and here the blot hitting contest, even though black has 3 points instead of 2 points, this prime here makes it much more difficult for black to escape. So this is a these are the kind of things you just have to study a lot and look at, and because the proverbs here aren't that simple.
Gary, can you move the men so we could see what it looks like?
Move which men? These guys?
Yeah, make
Okay.
the move.
Yeah, so that's what it looks like when you're done.
Gary, the other thing, why don't we check the double before the roll? Because most positions seems to be very strong. So.
Oh, the double? Let's see.
Yeah, because this position seems so strong. See what
You're right. It's a pass here. Interesting.
Yeah, this position seems too strong.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah, that's interesting too, because yeah, it's funny. So actually, Michi. Well, he's not talking about the cube, but probably should private examples where you should really cube and pass. But so that's a good good thing to point out. I didn't see that. That's interesting. Okay, final example for this session.
I'd hit. It's still a fairly strong prime.
Yeah.
Mm.
You'd hit, yeah. I have to admit, I would hit too, or I would have hit. However, the answer is that you don't hit. You go to the advanced stage. You make the anchor and come in. Here's an interesting position too. And I just checked that, since Jacob asked this before, this is also a double before the move. And I haven't checked this out, but I'm interested to see if you've already doubled here. Does this change the checker play? Because now you have gammon still, and well, it does a little bit. This was a big mistake if you hadn't doubled, but now that you've doubled, it's the same as, you know, making the anchor, just because of the gammon wins.
So what's the advantage of bringing the man down from the 13 point over going 6 to 4 with your 2?
Well, again, the general idea is that you don't move checkers past the point that you want to make.
Okay, you said that.
And that's the main, you know, that's the thing. If you're not aware that that's the thing that you should be aware of, take that
Okay.
home. That's important to know. That's a very basic idea. The other advantages are, okay, bringing this checker down gives you a checker that's 6 points away from the point that you want to make. It brings an extra builder into the zone. So here you've got builders on the 11, sort of the final. You got a builder here, a builder here. You probably wouldn't use this one, but maybe you may, unless, I guess if you got a 6-2 or a 3-2, maybe you would, or maybe a 6-2 you would. Actually, probably not. But so this doesn't really count as a builder. And now you've got a builder, you got 2 builders here, so double ones plays there. Whereas if you did, well, any 6 to 4 is a blender. So if you did this, whoops. Now you've got just, you know, a 3-1 makes it double, or double 3s would make the point, or double 1s. But that's it.
Okay, I see that.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, that's a good thing to keep in mind. If you're not aware of that, don't play a spare past an open point that you want to make. And you know, unless you have, sometimes you had no other choice, but in general, when you have another choice, do take the other choice. Okay. So that's that. You know, again, this is an interesting one where, you know, I would be very inclined to make this out to hit here, and bring one down probably. But here it's you know, these are pretty subtle things, because, you know, this, well, let's look at this. You know, the prior example was, okay, now this is so much stronger that we should hit. Let's see if we should hit here. Yeah, and you do hit here. Yeah. So yeah, Michi doesn't talk about this. So I don't know what, you know, this is sort of the thing that you have to, you know, to see often enough and play around with to understand. But I think, you know, this position here is very strong, and much stronger than when you have a gap. And so given the strength of this, it pushes hitting to be slightly better than not hitting. Okay, that's it for this session. Let me stop the recording.